want to say good afternoon to the sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob here in Memphis. It's good just to say that one time. And it's good just to give one lesson. And it is always good to be here. I guess you walk in here and you see all of these pictures here. You know, sisters and brothers, we are a people that everybody wants to be but us. Everybody is claiming to be you. And you are claiming to be so many different people until you don't know who you are. Are we going to deal with this a little bit? You know, at the Israel of God, if you've been around a while, you find out that we deal with all the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. We deal with speaking in tongues. We deal with the Spirit of God in its many forms. We deal with the great tribulation, the abomination of desolation. We deal with born again. We deal with the kingdom. We deal with resurrection. We deal with judgment, the law. But every now and then we have to deal with us. And today we are going to settle this question, if you have it in your mind, who Israel is or who the Jew is. Because people tell you, well, Brother Bull, that's not necessary. It is extremely necessary. You know why? It's because we're going to show you that the Lord chose Israel for one job, and that is to be the priest to all of the rest of the sons of Adam. Now, because the priests have been taken out of circulation, we're going to show you the last time any priest that had any knowledge of themselves, which was in 70 A.D., since Israel have gone into captivity, and we have forgotten our name, we have forgotten our nationality, we have forgotten our God and our job. The word of God has fallen into the hands of the Gentiles and the Edomites that the world knows as Jews. That's why you got people in heaven when Jesus say ain't nobody been there but him. That's why you have people that are in hell when the Bible tells you that there's going to be a judgment day. If there is a judgment day coming and somebody's in hell, how did he get there unless he was judged to be there? Or how did someone get into heaven unless they was judged worthy? This is what people don't pay any attention to. Because we have been taught by the wrong people, sisters and brothers. What we're going to do is we're going to show you, see all these pictures here? These, we have Israelites and we have Egyptians. Why do we have the Egyptians? Because you need to know who you look like and where you come from. So I title this, From Jacob, that is the father of all of us, from Jacob to the Jew. From Jacob to the Jew. We're going to show you, and we're going to show you where a Jew came from, and we're going to show you how the one that the world called Jew became a Jew. We're going to do some Bible. We're going to do some world history here, sisters and brothers. We're not dealing with emotion. We're not dealing with beliefs. We are going to deal with matters of fact. Because it is time for us to understand who we are, where we came from, and what our job is. See, we are here because of our disobedience. Like we just saw what happened in Florida. It is written in the Bible that the Bible said they're going to kill you. And don't feel that they have done anything wrong. They're going to sell you and thank God that they are rich, and your own shepherds, which are your ministers, are not going to pity you because they're not going to teach you the truth. So we're going to deal with this. And we're going to start this in Genesis, the 25th chapter. We're going to start with two brothers, sisters and brothers, two twin brothers, Esau and Jacob. Jacob, we're going to show you, our father, and Esau is the father of the ones that the world know as Jews. We're going to show you how they became who they are at what time. See, everything is recorded in history. But being that we think when you go to church, you're just supposed to get a good feeling, we don't investigate nothing. Things are happening to you, you don't know why. They're having a great debate now because of what happened in Florida. Look at all of a sudden, all the young blacks that are in jail. All the young blacks who have been killed. They don't understand that every bit of it is written. It is even written you're going to be hid away in prison houses. But we don't know because nobody cares about you. You know, you hear the word history. It comes from his story. Everybody has been telling his story. Now today I'm going to tell our story because you need to know this. And one of the greatest secrets in the whole creation is that this Bible in your hand is your history. But being that somebody else has taught you their history, they couldn't teach you the Bible. Like I tell people all the time, you've been taught all your life that people are in heaven and people are going to heaven, and I can tell you, you cannot read that one time. But we're going to start here in Genesis 25. We're going to start it with these two brothers, Esau and Jacob. Verse 19, Genesis 25 and verse 19. Okay, go ahead.
And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Pandanaram, the sister to Laban the Syrian.
Go ahead.
And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived.
See, Rebekah was barren, so the Lord, Isaac had to pray to the Lord to get her pregnant. So the Lord listened to him. And let's see what happened. Go ahead and read.
And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord.
Now, this is something that we cannot overlook, sisters and brothers. Even while we was in our mother's womb, we didn't like one another. We struggled with one another. See, people always run around, love, love, love. Love is the keeping of the commandments, sisters and brothers. But we struggle in the womb. And Rebekah wanted to know what is going on. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elders shall serve the younger.
Said 2 nations. 2 nations are in your womb. And 2 different manner of people, and they shall be separated at birth. That's what you're telling you right now. And just like I say a whole lot and tell a lot of people, just like the Lord, when he put man and woman together in the creation, he said what God put together, let no one put asunder. Well, what God separated, can't nobody put together. And we have to understand that, sisters and brothers. It's not a thing where you run around hating or dislike. Servants of God don't hate or dislike nobody. What you do is you realize who you're dealing with so you will know how to handle yourself and not always be surprised and disappointed. He says, so I'm going to separate these. And the elder is going to serve the younger. Go ahead and read.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau.
Go ahead.
And after that came his brother out. And his hand took hold on Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them.
Now, when they was born, they didn't say nothing about Jacob's color. We're not concerned about that. Just Esau red and hairy. So Isaac was 60 years old when he bare him. What verse are we?
27.
Go ahead.
And the boys grew. Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. And Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison. But Rebekah loved Jacob.
So we had a difference here. The father loved the oldest son, and the mother loved the youngest son. But go ahead and read.
And Jacob sowed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage.
Now look, Esau went out there and he couldn't kill nothing. One day the man couldn't kill nothing. Then he came back and asked him, feed me with that pottage. In other words, give me some of this food that you have prepared. One day the man missed a meal. And what happened? Go ahead and read.
Therefore his name called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright.
Now he said, sell me this day your birthright then. Go ahead.
And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me?
Go ahead.
And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob.
Now, what happened here? He sold his birthright, sisters and brothers. This has always been the argument. You hear people running around talking about, well, you know, Jacob stole a blessing. When you sell something, that means you got it honestly, didn't it? Right. So what did he do? Go ahead and read.
Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. He
had to despise it because you're going to sell it for a meal. But once he ate the meal, it was no longer his birthright. No longer, sisters and brothers. And we're not going to try and deal with all of it, but I'm just going to talk it through some of it because we have more important stuff I want to deal with. What happened was Jacob got old. Isaac got old, and he couldn't see too well. So he told Esau, now I want you to go and kill me some venison and bring it and prepare it the way I like it so I can eat it and I can bless you. But Rebekah, his wife, heard him tell Esau that. And Rebekah knew something else too, that the Lord had told her while they was in her stomach that the younger was going to be stronger than the older, and the older was going to serve the younger. And she knew who the birthright was given to, the blessing was given to even before they was born. So what did she do? She tell Jacob, while he out there trying to kill a deer, you go and get me 2 young goats out there. I'm going to prepare them the way your daddy like them. He going to eat them, and he going to bless you. And that is what happened, sisters and brothers. So while Esau was out trying to find a deer, Jacob came and fed Isaac. Isaac blessed him and gave him the birthright that he had already purchased. He didn't steal it. But now people saying he have. And this guy promised from that day to this one that he was going to kill his brother. And I'm going to tell you something. You don't know it, but his children have adopted his same attitude towards you. Nothing's changed. But now let's go and see how Jacob's name was changed. So Jacob went off because his mother told him, go down there and stay with my kinfolks until Esau tempered and cooled down. He ended up staying down there 20 years, come back with wives and babies. So on his way back, the Lord met him and he adopted him. We're going to go into Genesis, the 35th chapter. Genesis chapter 35. So I can't read the whole thing to you because we'd be here 2 days. So I'm going to see if I can just do this in one day. Genesis 35. Genesis 35, we're going to start at verse 1. Genesis 35 and verse 1. Okay, read it.
And God said unto Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make there an altar unto God, that appeared unto thee when thou fleddest from the face of Esau thy brother.
He said, now, when Jacob had got back, he told Jacob, now I want you to go to Bethel and make an altar. You know the place where I met you at, where you saw me coming up and down the ladder of my angels? He said, because I want you to go there because I am going to do something. Let's see what he wants. What else did he say to him? Skip down to verse 9. Verse 9 and read it.
And God appeared unto Jacob again. When he came out of Pandanaram and blessed him.
Go ahead.
And God said unto him, thy name is Jacob.
Thy name is Jacob. Go ahead.
Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel.
That's when the Lord adopted Jacob. You know, see, Isaiah the 49th chapter tell you that one of the Lord's name is Israel. So when you adopt somebody, you do not let them retain their own name. You give them your name, don't you?
That's right.
So he said, your name is Jacob. Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. In other scriptures, he tell you because you have power with man and God. But we don't have time for all that. So that's how we ended up with the name of Israel, sisters and brothers, because the Lord adopted Jacob and changed his name to Israel. So when you adopt somebody, and every male that have a child, that child retains the same name, Israel. That's how you got to become Israel. Israel is one of God's names, sisters and brothers. That And when people say the children of Israel, you're actually saying the children of God. So now, we're going to deal with Israel, which the Lord still called him in and out Jacob, and we're going to show you how that we got to where we are. We're going to walk this thing, sisters and brothers. Now let's go into Genesis, the 41st chapter. Genesis chapter 41. I'm sorry, Genesis 37. Genesis 37. Because we're dealing with Jacob here. Genesis 37. I'm going to start at verse 1. Genesis 37 and 1. Okay, read it.
And Jacob dwelled in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan.
Go ahead.
These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding a flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wife. And Joseph brought unto his father the evil report.
Now, he said, this is the generation of Jacob, which is Israel, and it told about all his sons. But he had one son, Joseph, that he liked because he was son of his old age, plus Joseph was a snitch. He always telling on his brothers, and they didn't like him. Go ahead and read.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age.
Go ahead.
And he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and he could not speak peaceably unto him.
So now, they hated Joseph. He got all of these brothers that he couldn't have a peaceful conversation with because they hated him because the father showed favoritism toward him. Now, let's see what happened with Joseph. Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12 and go ahead.
And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, here am I.
Go ahead.
And he said to him, go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren and well with the flock. And bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron and came to Shechem. Now,
so they was in the land of Shechem. They was tending the flock. So Jacob sent Joseph to check on them. And while Joseph was there, Joseph went. They saw his brother saw him coming, and then they started to plot on him. Skip down to verse 18. They started to plot on him because they hated him. Verse 18. Go ahead.
And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him.
Now they conspired against him to slay him. But one of the brothers weighed in to keep that from happening immediately. Skip down to verse 22 and read it.
And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness.
Go ahead.
And lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands to deliver him to his father again.
So he didn't want them to kill his brother. So what he did was, even all of them was brothers, but Reuben was the oldest one. So he figured out, look at here, I'm the oldest one. I got to have some sense. I can't let him kill my brother. But he hated him too. So what they come up with another idea. Skip down to verse 26 and let's see what it is. Verse 26. Go ahead.
And Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites.
So let us sell him to the Arabs. That's the Ishmaelites. Ishmael is the son is the father of the Arab. See, what we don't know is, I look at some of my Muslim brothers, sisters and brothers, got a lot of them in Chicago. They love to go through the thing with the Arab. But I'm saying, mister, this is the first one that sold you. And you need to look at the history. See, we don't do history, sisters and brothers. Somebody told us, don't look in a book. Listen to what I say. That's a little different with me. I say, look at what you read, because I can make a mistake. At my age, I forget stuff in a minute. That's why we're going to read this stuff. Right. So they said, they sold him to the Arabs. Go ahead and read.
And let not our hand be upon him. For he is our brother in our flesh.
Go ahead.
And his brethren were content.
So they listened to him. Go ahead.
Then there passed by Midianite merchantmen.
They were still Israelites, but from the land of Midian, that merchantmen. Go ahead.
And they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt.
Now, so what happened was Joseph was taken out of there and he was sold. down in Egypt. Skip down to verse, let's see. I'm not going to cut it. Skip down to verse 36 and read it. Go ahead.
And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard.
So now, what we have is Joseph, sold by his own brothers to the Arabs. The Arabs took him down and sold him to an Egyptian dignitary. And once he got in the Egyptian house, sisters and brothers, the Lord was with Joseph, and he blessed the Egyptian house. In fact, all of a sudden, the Egyptians started getting rich and all kind of stuff coming to him, and he liked Joseph. But so did his wife like Joseph. And his wife, like the book said, cast her eye on Joseph, said, come and lie with me. In other words, come sleep with me. He said, no, I can't do that. Then she kept on after day after day after day, and then one day, she got close, I guess, in her room, and she grabbed his garment, probably his shirt or whatever it is, and she said, come lay with me, and he wouldn't, he ran. And she kept it in her hand. And she saved it until her husband came. And when her husband came, she said, look, this Hebrew you brought in my house, because Israelites are Hebrew too, because Abraham is our father, and he's an Hebrew. This Hebrew you brought in our house, he mocked me. Look, he tried to deal with me, and I screamed, and he ran. The man didn't ask Joseph no question, didn't make no inquiry. Regardless how Joseph had made him rich, he got Joseph, and he put Joseph in jail. But then the Lord was still with Joseph. So what did Joseph, when he got in prison? He became a trustee. The man liked it. Then he put all of the prisoners under Joseph's supervision. And that's how we came to this, sisters and brothers. Because once he got there, then he rose to the top, and he had a couple of guys, a baker and a butler, that Pharaoh had put in jail also because he was hanging with them. They had dreams. And they asked Joseph, and Joseph interpreted their dreams. And one said, you're going to be restored to your position. And the other one, Joseph said, you're going to be killed. And both of them had it the way that Joseph called it. Now, this brings us to another dreamer, which is Pharaoh. This is where we're going now. Genesis, the 41st chapter. Because Pharaoh had a dream now. Because the Lord wanted to show him something, and that's what the Lord do. He will show you something, but he's going to show you by way of his priest. And we're going to show you what I mean. Now let's start at verse 1. Genesis 41 and verse 1. Read it.
And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years, that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river.
So now he had a dream, and he wanted to know what this dream was about. Skip down to verse 8, and let's see how he's going to find the answer to this. Verse 8, go ahead.
And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled. And he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt.
Go ahead.
And all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dreams. But there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh.
See, the whole thing is, that's what he called for all the people that's supposed to have some sense among the Egyptians, but nobody could interpret this dream. But go ahead and read.
Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. He
said, now I remember my fault. Look, when Joseph interpreted this dream, he said, look, you're going to live, man. You're going to be freed. Once you go before Pharaoh, I want you to tell him that I am an innocent Hebrew. I have done nothing, and I'm in jail. Will you do that? Yeah. 2 years later, when it was convenient to him, then he said, I remember my fault. Because nobody remember you, sister and brother. So he's going to do this because he's going to get a feather in his cap. Go ahead and read.
And we dreamed a dream in one night. I and he, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream.
Go ahead.
And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, a servant to the captain of the guard, and we told him. And he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass that he did interpret to us, so it was. Me he restored into mine office, and him he hanged.
He said, now he interpreted our dream according to what it was. me, I was restored to my office, and him he was hanged. In other words, this guy called it just like it is. What verse?
14.
Go ahead.
Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in under Pharaoh.
So when Pharaoh called him, Joseph shaved himself and went in, and they dressed him up. Of course, they didn't want to go in there in prison code. And they brought him to Pharaoh. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it.
Go ahead.
And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favored. And they fed in the meadow.
Now, he started to tell him the dream. Joseph said, look, God is going to give you a dream. Because we're going to show you that God answers people of the nations, but he only do it through his own people, Israel. So he said, God's going to give you a dream. So he started telling about, I saw 7 fat kinds of 7 fat cows, and they were stood by the meadow. Go ahead and read.
And behold, 7 other kind came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean flesh, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness.
He said, after them, I saw 7 poor, skinny, scrawny cows come up. I ain't never seen no cows in this kind of condition. They came up also from the river, and what happened?
And the lean and ill-favored kind did eat up the first 7 fat kind.
And the lean kind ate up the first 7 fat kind. And whatever that meant, sisters and brothers, it's something that Pharaoh wanted to know. But read the next verse. Just read the next verse. Go ahead.
When they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them. But they were still ill-favored as at the beginning, so I awoke.
He said, so now when the skinny and lean cows ate up the fat cow, they were still lean and scrawny. He said, I want to know this dream. Skip down to verse 25 and read it.
And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. God has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do.
He said, now the dream is one, Pharaoh. Now God have revealed to you what he's about to do. Pharaoh didn't know what it was because he was not the priest. We're going to show you. God have a protocol, sisters and brothers. So he said he didn't know what to, so he's going to show you what to do. Skip down to verse 29. Verse 29 and go ahead.
Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. There shall arise after them 7 years of famine.
He said, look, they're going to come 7 years of great plenty. I mean, you're going to have bumper crops. That's what represented them fat cows. He said, but after that, you're going to come 7 years of famine. So he's letting you know, I'm going to bless you real good, and then I'm going to pull the plug out of it. Go ahead and read.
And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land.
And here, all this bumper crops and all the grain and everything you have going to be forgotten because the famine is going to consume the land. In other words, God letting you know he's going to do you real good, and then he's going to take it all back. You got to do something about it. Go ahead and read.
And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following. It shall be very grievous.
Go ahead.
For that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice.
Ain't that something? He said, and you're going to forget about this. This dream was doubled because the Lord wants you to know what's going on. Skip down and read verse 33. Verse 33, go ahead.
Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise and set him over the land of Egypt. He said,
so now what you do in order to beat this Pharaoh, I want you to find a man that's discreet and wise and put him over this business. Because you're going to need him to deal with this. Skip down to verse 35 and go ahead.
And let them gather all the food of those good years that come. And lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh and let them keep food in the city.
So get a wise and discreet man. So while you're having this real bountiful crops, everything is prospering more than you ever had, I want this wise man to store this food in all of the cities in Egypt and prepare for this famine. Go ahead and read.
And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine.
So this is the way to save Egypt from perishing. Get all this food and store it for the hard time. It's just like When you're making a whole lot of money, don't go out and spend it all. Save some. So if you lose your job or something go wrong or unexpected, now you have something to fall back on. Joseph was telling him, this is the way you handle this. And let's show you what did Pharaoh think about this? Skip down to verse 39. Verse 39 and go ahead.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph.
For as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art.
See, God's the one, he's talking to you, mister. So who is wiser than you? You got a direct ear to God. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled.
He said, you shall be over my house, and whatever you say, all the Egyptians are going to have to do it, Joseph. This is a young man that went out as a slave. Go ahead.
Only in the throne will I be greater than thou.
He said, only in the throne. In other words, I am not going to interfere with what you do. Take care of this business. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt.
He said, now I've set you over all of the land of Egypt. So now, Joseph stored up for 7 years. And then all of a sudden, the 7 years of famine came. And Joseph had grain in every city. Everybody was coming from all over, even back in the land of Canaan where his family was. They went through a drought. They had to come up and get food. And Joseph ran into his brothers. First, for a while, he played around with them, spoke to them through interpreters. They didn't know that Joseph was an Israelite. You know what they thought he was? They thought he was an Egyptian, sisters and brothers. And I want you to show you what an Egyptian looked like. Not what you call over there. This is a headpiece of Tutankhamun. You ever heard of King Tut? What did it look like? This is the throne room of Tutankhamun and his wife. What did it look like? This is the grandmother, Queen Tai of Tutankhamun. What she look like? Like one of y'all, don't she? Just remember, the reason we need to know this, sisters and brothers, is because Israel got most of their wives from among these people. Now, let's go a little further, because I want you to understand, sometimes a picture speaks more than 1,000 words. I didn't come up with these pictures. I didn't write this history. I got it through research and history, and I come up with these people. In fact, before we get out of here, I'm going to show you exactly where they got you from. But now let's go. So now Joseph was over all the land. Remember, Pharaoh said, only I'm greater than you. So now, once the famine set in, his brothers came up. Once he got through playing with his brothers, he revealed himself, so I'm Joseph, your brother. How my father doing? They said, he's doing good. Go and bring my father here. Tell him his son Joseph live. So they went out there, and Jacob said, I'm going to go and see my son. Now let's take this to Exodus, the 1st chapter. Let's see how many Israelites that came out of Jacob that went down into Egypt, sisters and brothers. We're going to start this Exodus 2 and 1. Exodus 2 and 1. Exodus 2 and 1. Okay, read it.
And there went a man of the house of Levi and took the wife.
I'm sorry. Exodus 1 and 1. I'm sorry. Exodus 1 and 1. Go ahead and read. Exodus the 2nd chapter, 1st chapter rather, and verse 1. 1st chapter and verse 1. Go ahead.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt.
Go ahead.
Every man in this household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan and Naphtali. Gad and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. So now all of the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob, that was born to Jacob, was 70 souls. And I did research through the Bible, and I found out that 53 of these was nephews that didn't have no spouses. Where do you think they got their wives from? From among the Egyptians. 53 unmarried men. Because remember, Jacob had only one daughter, and he had, I think, one granddaughter. And the rest of them was his sons and his grandchildren.
So they was down there for a long time. And let's see what happened. Go ahead and read.
But Joseph was in Egypt already.
Uh-huh.
And Joseph died and all his brethren and all their generation.
Go ahead.
And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied.
Uh-huh.
And waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them.
Yeah, we can just, one thing we can do is have babies, sister and brother. So I mean, Israel having babies like 90 going north. So the lands are full of them. But what happened? Go ahead and read.
Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
Uh-huh.
And he said unto his people, Behold, the people and the children of Israel are more mightier than we.
Uh-huh.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when they fall about any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us. And so get them up out of the land.
So now Israel was answered to the Egyptians. They was doing service, like we good for menial labor. And all of a sudden, you got a Pharaoh look at all these Hebrew Israelites multiplying. He said, look, these people are more mighty than us. So let's live. Now, if these people, we get into a war, these people will rebel against us, join with our enemies, and break away from us. And they didn't want to get rid of this good commodity. Cheap labor. We've been doing cheap labor for a long time, sisters and brothers. So what do? Go ahead and read.
Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses.
Now, what do? They brought in chattel slavery, sisters and brothers. The first people that enslaved us looked like us. Egypt, Mizraim, Ham's second oldest son. That's why I tell the brothers over here to try to have something against white people. I said, look, man, we are treated the same everywhere we go. It don't have nothing to do with color. It has something to do with curse because our forefathers sinned against God. And we're going to show you. In fact, I thank God, once I did some research and found out how the Israelites are treated among the sons of Ham, I thank God that he put me in America among these whites. We got the best stick, believe it or not. However bad it is, you got the best hand. We're going to read a little of that today of some of these posters. So now, he put us in chattel slavery. Go ahead and read.
But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
So the more they afflicted Israel, the more children we had. Skip down to verse 14 and go ahead.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick.
Go ahead.
And all manner of service in the field. All their service when they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live.
Now look, so chattel slavery and hard work couldn't stop Israel from having babies. So he went to your first form of birth control. In fact, actually, this is how you wipe out a nation. So if the women have males, kill the male. But if they have female, save her alive. How is that, sisters and brothers? Because the man carried the seed.
That's right.
Whatever your father is, that's what you are. I hear people talking, well, I'm half German and half Greek. I said, what's your father? He Greek. I said, well, you're all Greek. Because a tomato seed, if you plant it at the seashore, it's going to be a tomato when it come up. Plant it in the mountain, it's going to be a tomato when it come up. If you plant it in the window in your flower pot, it's still going to be what when it come up? A tomato. Man is carry the seed. So the Egyptians said, if we kill all the males, then when the Egyptians sleep with the Hebrew Israelite women, the child will be an Egyptian. And that's the way it is, sisters and brothers. The man carried the seed. But go ahead and read what verse?
17. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men and children alive.
The midwives said, we ain't going there. And they didn't do it. So what did the Egyptians do? Skip down to verse 22. What did the Pharaoh do? Verse 22. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive.
So Pharaoh took another turn then. So he told all his people. Now, it's really something now. You have a child, and you have a male, your neighbor, Egyptian, looking over your fence to see what you got. It was real rough, sisters and brothers. And they threw a whole lot of young men. In fact, only one out of this whole generation that was alive was Moses. See, Moses was a forerunner for Jesus. Like when Jesus died, a generation died. When Moses died, a generation died. But in the meantime, Moses was born. Let's go into Exodus, the 2nd chapter, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Exodus 2 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
And then went a man of the house of Levi and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months.
Go ahead.
But when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and dabbed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and laid it in the flags by the river's brink.
So now, she had hid Moses as long as she could. It got harder and harder and harder. So eventually, she just made a little bitty boat and went to the weeds on the river, which we know is the Nile River, and put him out there and sent his sisters to watch and see what happened to him. Because, sisters and brothers, if you ever watch some of the animal stories, they had some great big crocodiles in the Nile River. And a lot of Israelite brothers was eaten by crocodiles. So now, she put him in the river, and let's see what happened. Go ahead and read.
And his sister stood afar off to wit what will be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river.
Go ahead.
And her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it.
Go ahead.
And when she had opened it, she saw the child. And behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children.
Look what the Lord did. He let Pharaoh's daughter go down there and find Moses. And when Moses started to cry, she had compassion. This is one of the Hebrew children. Now, Moses' sister kicked in, Miriam. Go ahead and read.
Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women? That she may nurse the child for thee?
Go ahead.
And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother.
Ain't that something? See, now, she could not protect her child on her own. But under the protection of Pharaoh's daughter, who going to go and kill Pharaoh's grandson? Nobody. So she went and got her mother. Now, I know a lot of you sisters and brothers saw the picture, what do you call the 10 Commandments? Like somebody discovered that. No, Moses always knew who he was because his mother raised him until he was weaned. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages.
Go ahead.
And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses and said, because I drew him out of the water.
Now, you know, sisters and brothers, I am a grandfather. I got 3 grandchildren. And I could never get them off my knee. They used to complain against me at the class. My grandchildren come up and they sit on my knee, wild choir singing and everything before I get, Brother Boy, you shouldn't have your grandchildren. Look, these are my grandbabies. Now, I'm pretty sure that Pharaoh had Moses on his knee a lot of times. Now, if Pharaoh looked like this, and Moses looked like the one that called himself Jew nowadays, don't you think Pharaoh would have had some kind of question? So how is it that my sweet daughter, that's your baby, is so white? Don't that make sense?
Yes, it do.
This cat could have been the next ruler of Egypt. And you know what the Egyptians thought about Israelites? They wouldn't even eat with an Israelite. That's when Joseph's brothers came and set food out. They would not eat with Joseph because it was an abomination for an Egyptian, in the eyes of an Egyptian, to eat with a Hebrew Israelite. So how is it that you're going to let one be adopted, be your grandson, and you don't even know it? And he didn't know it. This is what Moses looked like. So now, it came to pass that Moses grew up and he saw the Egyptian beating the Israelite. So he went out there and he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. Then they said, Then the next day he went out, he saw an Israelite beating up an Israelite. Then he tried to make peace. So look, brothers, why should you treat your brother like this? He said, hey, who made you rule over us? You going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian? Moses, I know Pharaoh know about it, because the one thing that we have, a characteristic that we have not divested ourselves of this day, is that we will tell everything. Right. And right away, Moses had to run, and Pharaoh was trying to catch him to kill him. Because then Pharaoh realized that Moses was an Israelite. So Moses went out into the land of Midian when he was 40. And he stayed down there for 40 years. When he came back, the Lord sent him back to deliver Israel, sisters and brothers. And when Moses came back to deliver Israel, the Lord told Moses, now I want you to go in and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. But he is not going to let him go, because I am going to harden his heart, because I want to lay my hands on Egypt. That's the way the Lord is. When you make a debt with him, he's going to collect. That's why whatever these people do to us, sisters and brothers, you ain't got to worry about it. The Lord is punishing you, but he said, I was a little pleased with my people, but you have furthered the affliction. For that, you're going to pay. So now, Moses came back, and when he came back to deliver Israel, Israel had been down in Egypt for 430 years. Moses come back there and started to do miracles in Egypt. Turned the water to blood. Brought in flies. Brought in lice. Brought in a whole lot of stuff. And finally, Pharaoh kept saying, I am not going to let this people go. Because God wouldn't let him go. Because God destroyed Egypt for what they did to his people. But finally, the Lord did one more plague that sprung Israel. Let's look at this plague. Let's go into Exodus the 12th chapter. Exodus the 12th chapter. Because remember now, this whole thing is played out with Israel and with Egypt. And you see what the Egyptians look like. And I'm telling you, they would not give us these pictures if they wasn't what they are. It's all that simple. I got these pictures from books and history books and other stuff, other media that I had nothing to do with. Because when you are a son of a slave, whatever you get, you have to go and get it from somebody else, don't you? Because we haven't recorded no books. We haven't done anything. Books we record is recorded out of somebody else's book. We don't even understand that we are a great people because somebody else have defined to us who we are. But everybody want to be you, and you're ashamed of being you. You won't be after the day. Exodus 12th chapter, this is when the Lord finally got ready. This is the last of it because Egypt did Israel so bad, then turn around and kill all the young men Moses' age. And you think that God was going to let them get away with it? No, you do not know this God that said, vengeance is mine. And he can take vengeance. He can take it so good until if you die, he's going to raise you up at the resurrection and kill you again with the second death. You can't escape this guy. 12:1. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of month.
Go ahead.
It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
Now, I want you to, on the 10th day, I want everybody to take to them a lamb. One that the family could eat. I don't want nothing left on this. And let's see what I want you to do with this lamb. Skip down to verse 5. Verse 5 and go ahead.
Your lamb should be without blemish.
He got to be perfect. Don't have a flaw on him. Go ahead.
A male of the first year.
He got to be the firstborn.
Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goat. And you shall keep it unto the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. Now you keep it until the 14th day, and the whole assembly, the whole nation, going to kill this lamb and eat it. Sister and brother, this lamb represents Jesus, sister. And this is a lot of my Israelite brothers have a problem with Jesus, but I tell you, Jesus was put on the table. This lamb represented Jesus because Israel wasn't no cleaner than the Egyptian. And now, what happens a lot, we still have a lot of the brothers killing the lamb on the Passover.
When we had the meat house up there, they used to come in and buy it. Well, you got lamb? Yeah, I got lamb. Well, everyone who gets to buy some lamb for the Passover, quite naturally, I'm in business. I'm trying to stay in business. I'm going to sell you some lamb. But I don't know whether it was male or female. I don't know whether it was born with a foot missing. I want to tell them so bad you're doing wrong, but I'm going to tell you how to do wrong right. You got to get you a female lamb, and you got to keep her. And then when the firstborn male, you got to get him and you got to examine him. Make sure he don't have a flaw. Then you got to put him up on the 14th day of the month Abib. And 10th day of the month Abib. Then you got to keep until the 14th day. Then you kill him. That's the way to do wrong right. Because you don't know whether this lamb is male or female. If you're going to learn how to do wrong, learn how to do it right. But once you kill this lamb, it said, what we going to do with the blood? Go ahead and read.
And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses wherein they shall eat it.
Now, once you kill this lamb, you got to get the blood and put it on your side post and over your doorpost. Why is that? Skip down to verse 12 and go ahead. Verse 12, read it.
For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night.
Because I'm going to pass through the land of Egypt this night.
And will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast.
Go ahead.
And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment.
I'm going to kill the firstborn of everything in Egypt, man and beast. Go ahead and read.
I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses wherein you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt.
He said, so when I see the blood, I'm going to pass over that house. And I'm not going to allow the plague to come in and kill your firstborn. But something the Lord instituted here, and nobody pays it attention. You know what that is? Faith. If you believe God, you put the blood over your doorpost. If you didn't believe God, you didn't put the blood over your doorpost. So if you didn't put the blood put it over the doorpost, that means you didn't have no faith. You died for a lack of faith. But if you put the blood over your doorpost, that means you have faith and you were saved by faith. People think faith only started in the New Testament. It has always been according to your faith. So what did the Lord do? Skip down to verse 29. Verse 29 and go ahead.
And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
From the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon.
Go ahead.
And all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt. There was not a house where there was not one dead.
Ain't that something? He rose up in the middle of the night because every firstborn, and of every Egyptian, of every animal was killed that night. So Pharaoh rose up. Okay, now, God going to let Israel go now. Because this was the 10th plague, and the Lord had gotten even. Go ahead and read. For all the males that he killed with Moses, this is what the Lord collect. Right here. Go ahead.
And he called for Moses and Aaron by night. And said, rise up and get you forth from among my people.
Go ahead.
Both ye and the children of Israel, and go serve the Lord as ye have said.
He said, now I want you to rise up and get on out of here. And I mean serve the Lord as you said, because finally the Lord let him go. Skip down to verse 37 and go ahead.
And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth. About 600,000 on foot there were men beside children.
Now when they left, it was 600,000 men without the children. 600,000, sisters and brothers. Think about what I'm saying here. I say, even if the Israelites had been white, there were 70 souls there, went down there. Then there was 53 of them single. Now, this guy married an Egyptian. His son married an Egyptian woman. His son married an Egyptian. 2-3 generations, what do you think would have happened to the white pigmentation? It would have been breaded out. You go down there, 70 people, and come out 600,000 plus. You done did some big time multiplying, ain't you? But how long did it take them to do it? Skip down to verse 40. Verse 40, go ahead.
Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years.
So they dwelled down there 430 years. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the same day it came to pass, that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt.
Now, so 430 years, all the hosts of the land come out from out of Egypt, sisters and brothers. Now let me show you something that's written here. I didn't write it. It come out of the same publication I got it from. It said, look, when the tomb of the Egyptian king Tutankhamun was discovered, virtually intact in the 1920s, it yielded a breathtaking collection of art objects from the 14th century BC, just a few years before the Exodus. Just a few years before the Exodus. And the people thought the Egyptian that came out, the people that came out was Egyptian? No, they knew they was black. These Israelites, we're going to get to them. But just think about it. When Moses came and Israel was released from Egypt, it was only a few years. Think about it. A few years before the Exodus. Does that mean that if Egypt still looked like that, the Egyptian, then what do you think? And Israel looked like the Egyptian, what do you think Israel looked like now, sisters and brothers? You know, don't take a rocket science, it doesn't. All you got to do is know the facts. But we don't deal with facts. We like to go to church and scream and holler and be full of the Holy Ghost and leave feeling good, but you don't know nothing. We can't even teach our children so they don't end up in places that get killed. Because they have to know you are not like the other people. What if there'd been a white boy walking there? Not a part of the neighborhood. You think this guy would have jumped him and eventually killed him? No. But you're supposed to tell your son, now you can't do this if you don't have the certain privileges. Once you understand who you are and what you're up against. So now, with this, God took Israel out into the wilderness. Now, once he sprung Israel, he wanted to let us know what he wanted to do with us. So let's go into Exodus, the 19th chapter. God's always giving instruction and telling you and informing you what he wants you to do. And when God give a job to somebody and the person don't do it, he do not take it and give it to somebody else. He do you just like he did Jonah. When he told Jonah to go and prophesy to Nineveh, Jonah didn't want to do it because he didn't like the Ninevites. The Ninevites was Semitic. They came out of Nimrod, which was an Ethiopian, a Cushite. He did not want to prophesy because he knew they was going to repent and God wouldn't kill them, and he wanted God to kill them. So what he do? He got him a ship. He going to run away from him. God sent a storm. The people started hollering, "What's up?" He said, "Throw me over the side." And the storm will stop. The people tried to keep from it, but after a while they told Jonah, "Okay, partner." And they threw him over the side, and the water stopped. Then the Lord sent a big fish there and swallowed Jonah up, took Jonah and threw him up on a rock. Then the Lord spoke to him again. "Jonah, go down and prophesy to Nineveh." I didn't hear him say it, but I'm pretty sure he said, "Yes, sir, boss." Because when he got a job for you to do, you going to do it, sisters and brothers. Ain't nothing, I'm going to show you. And this God said, "I'm God and I change not." So now, he brought Israel into the wilderness. And let's see what he said. 19:1. Exodus 19 and verse 1. Go ahead.
In the third month, when the children of Israel were going forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai.
Go ahead.
For they were departed from Rephidim and will come to the desert of Sinai. And they pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mountain.
Go ahead.
And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel.
So that's the way the Lord talks sometimes. You think sometimes he's talking to two different people. No, he said the house of Jacob, which are the children of Israel. So this is what I want you to tell them. Go ahead.
You have seen what I did unto the Egyptians,
Uh-huh.
how I bare you on eagle's wings,
Uh-huh.
and brought you unto myself.
He said, now you've seen what I did to the Egyptians. But I got something I want to do with you. Go ahead and read.
Now therefore, if you obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
Now the Lord can tell you that, don't he? He said, so if you obey my voice, keep my covenant, you shall be a peculiar people unto me above all people, because the whole earth is mine. Go ahead and read.
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests.
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests. The whole kingdom. Go ahead and read.
And a holy nation.
A holy nation.
These are the words which I shall speak unto the children of Israel.
And then that's what the Lord did. He chose this people because he's going to give his word to one people, and we're going to show you this. And that one people is going to take it to all of the rest of the sons and daughters of Adam. So what was you chosen to be? You were supposed to chosen to be the priest of God. That's what people think. Well, I'm a chosen people. What are you chosen to do? Well, I'm just chosen. Don't make no sense to me. You chosen and you don't know what you chosen for. You need to go back and ask the one, what did he choose you for? He chose Israel to be a kingdom of priests. And we're going to show you this. But what happened, sisters and brothers? We did break God's commandment as a people. We messed up. But God is a God whose calling is without repentance. So you, and is a God of example, sisters and brothers. He like to know you, let you know that he don't change. So when he chose Israel, look what he told Israel. Let's go into Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. See, in order to tell this story, sisters, to keep you from running into this kind of stuff, some of them say, well, you know, you're a New Testament Christian. And don't even teach the New Testament. So you don't pay no attention to nothing. You go there, and this guy going to read you one verse, and then he going to scream and holler in your face, and you going to go home feeling good. Dumber than you was when you came. This is school, sisters and brothers. This is information that you need. I'm not here wasting your time and mine. You need this. Deuteronomy 4:1, verse 1. Go ahead.
Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you.
Go ahead.
For to do them, that you may live and go in and possess the land which the Lord God of your fathers have given you.
So now he told them, you're going to be a kingdom of priests to me. So I want you to listen to me and observe all the things that I am teaching you, that you might go in and possess the land. Go ahead.
You shall not add unto the word which I command you.
You shall not add to this. Go ahead.
Neither shall you diminish aught from it.
Neither shall you hold back, just to keep from making somebody feel bad. I want you to tell it all. Go ahead and read.
That you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you.
He said, I want you to keep these commandments. Skip down to verse 5. Now look what Moses said to these people. Go ahead.
Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me.
Go ahead.
That you should do so in the land whither you should go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them. For this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nation.
He said, now I've taught you laws and judgment and the Lord's commandment. I want you to keep and do them because this is your wisdom in the sight of the nations. Because the Lord is going to have all nations looking at you. Go ahead and read.
We shall hear all these statutes and say,
These nations shall hear all these statutes and say, go ahead.
surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. Do they say that about you now?
No.
But that's what it's supposed to be. But we did not listen, sisters and brothers. So what did the Lord do? Here's a God of example. I'm going to show you an example that represented the whole nation. Everybody was supposed to be like this. King Solomon. Let's go into 1 Kings, the 4th chapter. The nation, see, the Lord was going to bless us. We're going to serve him, and He's going to bless us, and the nation's going to look upon us, and they're going to look at these blessings, and they're going to want to say, come over and say, look, what is it that you people did that make God bless y'all so? And we tell them, and they do the same thing, and then God was going to bless them. That's the way it was supposed to be. But we fell off the horse. Instead of us teaching people about our God, we start inquiring about their God. Gods that they made. Even God said that. So you get a man that's impoverished. He go into the woods and he cut out a tree. And he warm himself with it. He roast flesh with it. He built a house with it. Then he sat down and said, then he said, I have been warmed by the fire. Then he get that same tree and make him a god and fall on his face and worship it. So don't he understand that he is praying to a stock of a tree? That's the way we think, sisters and brothers. And we got to get out of that. So the Lord is letting us know here, you are my priest. You are the teachers of the whole world. But we fail to do it. But God always give an example. Like I use Enoch for an example. Enoch didn't die, sister and brother. Man wasn't supposed to die. God used Enoch to let us know that this could have happened to you. Death wasn't even in the creation when the Lord created. But he always used an example. This is his example too, as far as what we are supposed to be as a nation. 4:1. Go ahead and read.
So King Solomon was king over all Israel.
So this is King Solomon. The Lord appointed him king over all Israel. Now skip down to verse 39. And let's look at this guy, 29 rather. Verse 29. And let's look at this guy's wisdom. Verse 29. Go ahead.
And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceeding much. And largeness of heart. Even as the sand that is on the seashore.
So he gave him a whole lot of wisdom. Broad-minded. Says mine was broad as the sands on the seashore. Go ahead and read.
And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country and all the wisdom of Egypt.
Go ahead.
For he was wiser than all men, than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, and Calcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahal, and his fame was in all nations round about.
Ain't that something? He was wiser. Solomon was wiser than all men, even the wisest people at that time. No matter who it was, nobody was wiser than Solomon. And let me show you what this wisdom brought to Solomon. Skip down to verse 34 and go ahead.
And there came of all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon from all the kings of the earth.
And there came of all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon from all the kings of the earth. Go ahead and read.
Which had heard of his wisdom.
Which had heard of his wisdom. That was supposed to be us as a nation, sisters and brothers. The whole nation was chosen as priests. Every man and woman in here was supposed to be wiser when it comes to the word of God than any other people on the whole planet. But being that we chose not to adhere to God's laws and statutes, God said, I'm going to show you what I was doing, what I was telling you. And he made us an example. That was Solomon. Because we were supposed to be the priests. If a brother was out in the field, you get a Canaanite come out there and say, what it is that the Lord said, he was supposed to be able to tell it. If a sister was over there washing her clothes, and you got a Moabite come over there and say, what is it that the Lord wants? The sister wants to turn around and tell it. Because all of us are the priests of God. All of us. That's why I tell some of my Hebrew brothers that have issue with Gentiles and other people. I don't have no issue with nobody. Because if I am the priest, and had I done my job, then I would be on top. I would be called the shot. I would have the banks. I would be the financiers. I would be the builders of the houses and the setters of the law. And the law would be God. So as Solomon was, so was it supposed to be with all of the nations. Let me show you this with all of Israel. Let's go into Isaiah, the 43rd chapter. Isaiah chapter 43. This, sisters and brothers, the Lord put here because he wanted us to understand the role that he created us to carry out. But we don't deal with it. You know why? Because we think everybody else is smarter than us. I can tell you something, you ain't going to listen to it unless you get it from somewhere else. You know, and this is a true story. We had a brother that was working on this job, and he was trying to teach this brother that he was the Israelite and he was the priest. Brother didn't even listen. At least 2 years. but you had a Gentile, a white guy sitting over there listening, and he came to class. And when he went back and told his same brother that he couldn't confess in 2 years, he was there the next day, Sabbath day. You know what it is? Because your ice is colder than my ice. Came out of the mouth of a Gentile, it's got to be true. That is a bad mindset, sisters and brothers, especially in the light of what the Lord chose you to be. Isaiah 43, and we're going to start reading at verse 1, and we're going to skip around. Isaiah 43 and verse 1. Read it.
But now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel.
You remember I told you how the Lord talked. It's still one people. The Lord that created you, O Jacob, he that formed you, O Israel. Go ahead and read.
Fear not, for I have redeemed thee.
I
have called thee by thy name, and thou art mine.
I have called you by your name, and thou art mine. What is his name? Skip down to verse 7 and read it. Go ahead.
Even every one that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him, yea, I have made him.
So even every one that is called by my name, I have created him for my glory. I have called him, I have made him. He is letting you know that, sisters and brothers. Skip down to verse 10. Verse 10 and go ahead.
Ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord.
You are my witnesses, saith the Lord. You got people running around here telling me they're Jehovah's Witnesses. Israel is Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, that's right.
You are my witness, saith the Lord. Go ahead and read.
And my servant whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me.
He said, and you are my servant whom I have chosen. And I want you to understand. All these pagan gods that people put, look, there was no God before me, and there ain't going to be no God after me. This is actually Jesus talking, sister and brother. Go ahead and read.
Even I am the Lord. Beside me there is no Savior.
He said, I am the Lord, and beside me there is no Savior. What did Acts tell you? That the name of Jesus is the only name given under the sun whereby men might be saved. He's already letting you know that he's going to come in the name, and that's the only one that's going to be God, that you can be saved under. I'm he, and there's no other Savior. Go ahead and read.
I have declared and have saved.
Go ahead.
And I have showed when there was no strange God among you. Therefore, ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord, that I am God.
He said, look, I've saved when there was no strange God. I'm the one that set things up. Therefore, Israel, you are my witness. You are my witness that I am God. You are the one that's supposed to let the rest of the world know that no, this God you got, the God of Sunday, is not God. The God of the Sabbath day is God. You are my witness. Look what he said concerning it. Skip down to verse 20. Verse 20, and read it.
The beasts of the field shall honor me. The dragons and the owls, because I give waters in the wilderness and rivers in the desert, to give drink to my people, my chosen.
He's in the desert, creatures are going to honor me because I created water in the desert to give drink to my people, my chosen. Go ahead and read.
This people have I formed for myself.
This people have I formed for myself.
They shall show forth my praise.
They shall show forth my praise. Only Israel, sisters and brothers, and nobody else. But you let somebody tell you something contrary. He said, I formed you to do this. You're the one that's going to show forth my praise. You're the one that's going to be my witness. You are. That's why, Sister and Brother Pharaoh had to go to Joseph. Look what Paul wrote here. Let's go into Romans the 9th chapter. Romans the 9th chapter. We're going to have all this good stuff in here and don't nobody read it. You'd rather go down and listen to somebody scream in your face and have a good feeling and go home. No. You better learn something, sister and brother, because I got news for you. Your salvation is in your hand. And if you're going to save yourself, you have to know how. It's all that simple. I cannot preach you into the kingdom. Neither can I put you in the lake of fire. You can learn and deliver yourself into God's kingdom, and you can keep yourself from going to the lake of fire. But you have to know how. And stop letting other people tell you about your God. Look what Paul told you concerning you, Israel. Verse 1. Go ahead and read.
I say the truth in Christ.
I
lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Ghost.
Go ahead.
That I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh.
He said, look, I'm telling you the truth. I wish I could be accursed from God for my brethren, my kindred, according to the flesh. He ain't talking about spiritual Israel now. He's talking about spiritual Israel. According to the flesh, who are they? Go ahead.
Who are Israelites? To
who are Israelites? Go ahead and read.
Whom pertaineth the adoption?
Whom pertaineth the adoption? When was Israel adopted? When the Lord changed his name to Israel. Go ahead and read.
And the glory.
And the glory.
And the covenant.
And the covenants. All the new and the old covenant was made with Israel. Go ahead and read.
And the giving of the law.
And the giving of the law.
And the service of God.
And the service of God.
And the promises.
And all the promises was made to Israel. So what's left for anybody else? How come nobody read this to you out of Paul's right? Go ahead and read.
Whose are the fathers?
Whose are the fathers? Look, every book in this Bible was written by an Israelite. Every prophet started with Moses. Every apostle started with Matthew. Everyone was an Israelite. Whose are the fathers? Go ahead and read.
And of whom, as concerning the flesh, Christ came. Who is over all, God bless forever. Amen.
And even Jesus had to come through Israel. Because if he's not, then he couldn't do no teaching. Because Israel is the priest. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Israel was the priest. Now let's back up to Romans the 3rd chapter. Romans the 3rd chapter. And we're going to start at verse 1. Romans 3 and 1. Romans 3 and 1. So these things, you know, people go and read Paul writing, because why don't they read this kind of writing out of Paul's stuff? Verse 1, go ahead.
What advantage then hath the Jew?
What advantage then hath the Jew? Go ahead and read.
Or what profit is there of circumcision?
Or what profit is there of circumcision? Go ahead.
Much every way.
Much every way. Why?
Chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God.
Chiefly because unto Israel was committed the oracles of God. You know what the oracle means? Answers. If you wanted an answer from God, you had to go to the Israelites. Didn't Pharaoh have to go to Joseph? All his wise men couldn't tell him, could he? You think that was an accident? Let's pursue this a little bit. Let's go into Daniel's the 2nd chapter. Daniel's the 2nd chapter. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. Daniel's chapter 2 and verse 1. That's why you have to know, sisters and brothers, the Lord laid this thing out because he wants you to understand this. Because we as a people, especially the males, we got a job that we got to get on.
That's right.
We've been fumbling the ball. We've been following other people. And the whole world has slid backwards. The whole world. Because we haven't done our job. Somebody told you that you ain't nothing. God is telling you that you are all of it. The whole world is going to come where you bring it. If you don't bring it, it's going to be steeped in paganism just like it is now. If the Lord come right now, wouldn't be nobody saved. Because people run around, you ain't got to keep the commandments. You can eat anything you want to eat because all you got to do is pray over it. You ain't got to honor the Sabbath day. Sunday is the Christian Sabbath day. Jesus told you 4 times he ain't going to raise the dead up until the last day. You telling people your mother's in heaven looking down on you smiling. All you have in the name of the Lord is paganism, sisters and brothers. Paganism. That will get you a room in the lake of fire. Daniel 2 and 1. Here's another dreamer. Go ahead and read.
And in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him.
So he had the same thing Pharaoh had. Go ahead and read.
Then the king commanded to call the magicians, and the astrologers, and the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dream. So they came and stood before the king.
So they came and stood before the king, but they couldn't do it. Skip down to verse 10. Verse 10 and go ahead.
The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, There's not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things as any magician or astrologer or Chaldean.
You know, that is funny. That is very presumptuous of him, isn't it? There's no man on the earth can show the king matter. I see this a lot of time. I look at some of the religious program when I see Gentile preachers and some uninformed Israelite, that means black preachers, sitting among them, and they discussing a topic so simple until the children in the children's class of the Israel of God could answer. And they done made a great big dissertation out of it. All kind of this, and I could get one of the 5 or 6 year olds, will you go up there and show these people this? And they can do it. So he's just assumed that there ain't nobody can do this. Go ahead and read.
And it is a rare thing that the king requires. And there's none other that can show it before the king.
Go ahead.
Except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh.
Well, except a God. Go ahead and read.
For this cause the king was angry and very furious.
Go ahead.
And commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon.
So he got mad. I done had all you people on my payroll all these years. You've been faking and perpetrating. I'm going to kill every one of you. And let's see what happened. Go ahead and read.
And a decree went forth that the wise men should be slain. And they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain.
Wait a minute. Something's missing here. They didn't seek Daniel and his fellows to come up and tell the king his dream. They sought Daniel to kill them. Why is it that nobody called Daniel the captive? Because they think we don't know nothing. It haven't changed. They think we don't know nothing. So when they went and told Daniel, they said, wait a minute, man, I can handle this. Skip down to verse 24. Verse 24. And go ahead.
Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, unto whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him,
go ahead. Destroy
not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation.
He said, don't destroy the wise men. Bring me. Because Daniel consulted with the Lord, and the Lord told Daniel. You know why he told Daniel? Because we are the one that possess the oracles of God. We are the one that is carry his answer. We are his witnesses, sisters and brothers. We are the one that he chose to show forth his praises. Therefore, we are the ones only can put this thing in order. Do y'all understand what I'm telling you? See, we have to come to this conclusion and stop letting people tell the priest that you are the student.
That's right.
He said, take me in there. I'm going to show him. What verse?
25.
Go ahead.
Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation.
You notice they always have to go to the slave. Had to go to the slave Daniel, Joseph. Now he said, now I've found you one of the captives of Judah. He will show you the interpretation. Go ahead and read.
The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof?
Go ahead.
Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king hath demanded, cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king?
He said, look, what you're looking for, your people can't show you. Because they don't represent God. Not the God of the creation. But go ahead and read.
But there's a God in heaven that revealeth secrets.
But there's a God in heaven that revealeth his secrets. Go ahead.
And maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and in the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these.
Now then he started to tell him. There's a God in heaven that have made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what's going to happen in the latter days. So this is what you dream, and this is what the dream meant. And he proceeded to tell him. Could nobody else tell him, sisters and brothers? You know why? Because in Israel's hands are the answers of God. We possess the oracle, sisters and brothers. Let's look at Jesus, the birth of Jesus. Let's go into Matthew, the 2nd chapter. I just want you to understand the way it is. Then you stop looking, going and buying and listen to these guys that go down to these bookstores and buy these sermons that's written up by Gentiles, designed to slay you. and start turning to your God and learn about your God. So your young men will have some sense. They stop dying senselessly. You have a direction. You know that you came somewhere. And when you find out that you came somewhere and who you are, then that lets you know you are going someplace. But our young men, we don't know. We don't. They got them all from Africa. That's why I hear people all the time and say, well, I'm African American. I said, that is something. You have decided you are a citizen of a continent. Ask a European, he will say, I am German American. I am Russian American. I am Italian American. I am French American. But he never said I'm a European American. You know why? Because he knows where his family is on the continent. Where is your family? When you say African American, let me know you are woefully uninformed. You don't know where you came from. Therefore, you don't know where you're going. Now, here in Matthew, the 2nd chapter, Jesus was going to be born. And let's see what happened here. 2 and 1. Matthew's 2 and 1. Okay, read it.
Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? We have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him.
Now, you know, when they always refer to Jesus, they always refer to him as King of the Jews or King of Israel. But you don't hear it in your churches, do you? Oh, he's my personal Savior. He's my guiding star. But he ain't never the King of Israel. He is born to be king. That let me know that these wise men, I say, wise men, is it 3 wise men? It didn't say it, could it? All we know it was more than one. Could have been 2, could have been 200. Go ahead and read.
When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him.
Go ahead.
And when he had gathered all the chief priests and the scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born.
Now, he didn't go to the Edomites. Because Herod, we're going to find out that Herod, this guy is something. You understand? He gathered the chief priests and the scribes together, the Pharisees, the Israelites. Go ahead and read.
And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet,
go ahead.
And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. He said, look, Bethlehem of Judah, it was a nonchalant answer to him. This is common knowledge among Israel. Oh, Jesus, he's going to be born in Bethlehem of Judea. Because the prophets said it. They knew the prophecy. So Herod had to go to the captives also, because they was captives under the Romans. The Romans had made Herod king over Judea. We're going to show you that later on. Now, all of a sudden now, you get a Gentile. This is the first Gentile. Gentile, those are children of Japhet, which are white folks. They ain't got nothing to do with non-believers. White folks, Europeans. First one that brought into the church was an Italian. Let's see how the Lord did that. Just like Herod had to go to the Israelites, let's see what Cornelius had to do. Let's go into Acts, the 10th chapter. Acts, the 10th chapter. All this good stuff in here, sisters and brothers, don't nobody read it, because don't nobody care. You know why they don't care? Because if you read too much of this stuff, you're going to run into yourself. And you can't afford to run into yourself because you ain't nothing, according to what you've been told. But the Lord, the Word of God, take issue with that, and so do I.
We would like to invite you to join us on the Sabbath Day Live via the Internet. Log on to our website, which is www.theisraelofgod.com. Click on the link Sabbath Day Live on our homepage. You will need Windows Media Player to view our program. We stream live twice every Sabbath at 10 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Central Time. If you enjoy our program, we would appreciate your donations to help defer the cost of continuing this work. Send donations to the Israel of God, 2515 East 75th Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60649. Also, if you're in the Chicago area, please feel free to join us at our study class located at 2515 East 75th Street here in Chicago.
is my light, my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. And whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even my enemy,